Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into something super useful this time. Mastering party English.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
It is right. Like, think about walking into a party, feeling totally confident and ready to chat with anyone in English.
I love that.
Me too. And that's exactly what we're aiming for today. So how about we jump right
It
in?
did to me.
All right, so let's start with some key phrases you'll hear a lot at parties. One that comes to mind is once in a lifetime.
Ah, yes, that's a good one. It's like when someone says this party is a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Right. They're emphasizing how special and unique it is.
Exactly. It's a way of saying you don't want to miss this.
For sure. And you know what else you might hear? Someone saying, good thing we got here early when the party's packed.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic. It's a great way to express relief or satisfaction.
Totally. Like, whoo, we made it just in time. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about slang.
Slang at a party.
You bet. Parties are full of informal language.
Yeah.
For instance, you might hear someone say they're going to ditch the party. Yeah, it basically means they're leaving maybe a bit unexpectedly.
Ah, I see. So it's important to pay attention to the context.
Absolutely. Context is key for understanding slang.
Hmm.
Oh, and speaking of explaining things, have you ever heard someone use the word prestigious?
Prestigious. Yeah, I have. Like, that's a very prestigious event.
Exactly. It means something is highly respected, admired, maybe even a little exclusive.
Right. It's a great word to use when describing something impressive. Okay, now imagine you're at a party and you see a float.
A float, like at a parade.
Exactly. It's a decorated platform often used in parades or festivals to carry performers or showcase something special.
That makes sense. So we've covered some useful phrases and vocabulary,
Yeah.
but how do we actually put these into practice and feel more confident?
Well, one thing you can do is immerse yourself in English conversations as much as possible.
Ooh, good idea. Like watching movies, TV shows, listening to podcasts.
Exactly. That way you get exposed to different speaking styles and vocabulary.
And don't be afraid to practice speaking out loud, even if it's just to yourself.
That's a great tip. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become. And hey, speaking of practice, how about we do a quick vocabulary recap?
Love that idea. Let's do it.
Okay, so we've talked about some useful phrases and vocabulary, but parties can be tricky.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Like, what about understanding fast-paced conversations? It can feel impossible sometimes.
All right, it's like everyone's words are running a marathon, but hey, don't worry, there are ways to keep up.
Okay, I'm listening. What are your secrets?
Well, one thing is to focus on key words and phrases. You
Yeah.
don't have to catch every single word.
So it's more about getting the general idea.
Exactly. It's like listening for those important clues in a mystery. You want the main points.
That's a great way to think about it. And context is key too, right?
Absolutely. If you hear a word you don't understand, use the words around it and the topic to figure it out.
It's like a puzzle. But what if I still feel lost? Is it okay to ask someone to repeat themselves?
Of course, it's totally normal to ask for clarification. You can say, sorry, could you say that again? Or could you speak a bit slower, please?
Phew. That's good to know. I think sometimes we get so worried about sounding perfect that we forget to just ask.
I know what you mean. It's more important to be understood and actually engage in the conversation.
For sure. Now let's talk about those dreaded awkward silences.
Huh. Well, this can be tough.
They can. Any tips for handling them gracefully?
Well, one thing you can do is have some conversation starters ready, like open-ended questions that spark interesting discussions.
Ooh, I like that. Give me an example.
Sure, you could ask, what are you passionate about? Or what's the most interesting thing you've learned recently?
Those are great. They really encourage people to open up and share.
Right. And you can always comment on your surroundings too, like the music is great. Do you know who the band is?
Or, I love the decorations. Did you make them yourself?
Exactly. It's all about finding common ground and breaking the ice.
And sometimes a little silence is okay too, right? Gives everyone a moment to breathe.
Absolutely. Now, how about we tackle something else that can be a little tricky at parties? Cultural differences.
Oh yeah, that's a big one, especially when you're with people from different backgrounds.
Exactly. And, in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to explore some of those cultural nuances and how to handle them with respect.
Perfect. Can't wait to learn more about that. See you in the next part. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into party English. And I'm really excited to talk about something that can make a big difference in how we connect with people at parties. Cultural nuances.
It is fascinating stuff and so important, especially in today's world where we're interacting with people from all sorts of backgrounds.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in. What are some key cultural differences we might encounter at parties?
Well, one that comes to mind right away is personal space. In some cultures, it's totally normal to stand close to someone when you're talking.
Right. But in other cultures, people might prefer a bit more distance,
Exactly. So it's all about being observant and paying attention to how others are positioning themselves.
like mirroring their behavior.
Exactly. If someone seems uncomfortable when you're standing too close, just take a step back.
Good tip. And what about other nonverbal cues? Is there anything else we should be aware of?
Hmm. Well, eye contact is another big one. In some cultures, direct eye contact is a sign of respect and engagement. But in others, it can be seen as confrontational.
So again, it's about observing and adjusting accordingly.
You got it. And humor can be tricky too. What's funny in one culture might not translate well in another.
Oh yeah, that's true. So maybe err on the side of caution with jokes,
Wait.
especially when you're first getting to know someone.
Definitely. Better safe than sorry. And speaking of things to be mindful of, it's always a good idea to be respectful of customs and traditions.
Right. And if you're not sure about something, just ask. Most people are happy to share their cultural insights.
Exactly. It shows you're interested and willing to learn.
Okay, so before we wrap up, let's do a quick recap of some of the key vocabulary we've covered today.
Great idea. Let's see. We talked about once in a lifetime to describe something truly special and unique. And then there's good thing, which is perfect for expressing relief or satisfaction.
Right. And we can't forget ditch, that slang term for leaving somewhere, often unexpectedly.
Ah, yes. And remember, prestigious, that word we use to describe something that's highly respected and admired.
And of course, there's float, that decorated platform often used in parades and festivals.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. But most importantly, I hope these tips and insights will help you feel more confident and comfortable in your next party.
Me too. Remember, the key is to practice, be observant, and most of all, have fun.
Exactly. Parties are about connecting with people and enjoying yourself.
Yeah,
So go out there, strike up some conversations, and have a blast.
absolutely. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of the learning process.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into party English. We hope you've enjoyed it and learned some valuable tips. Until next time, happy partying, everyone.